Hello everyone, this video is paired with lesson 3.3 out of your textbook, but we will not be doing any work out of your textbook. It's just going to be paired with dividing polynomials. And as you can see here, this is multiplying polynomials, but it is an area model puzzle. So what this worksheet will do is it's going to transition you from multiplying into dividing polynomials. And in the next lesson, we will be fully dividing polynomials. So it doesn't have a goal on the worksheet, but we do have a goal. And that goal is for us to use an area model to either multiply or divide. Okay, let's take a look at example number 1. So this is a very typical multiplication problem. It just has numbers on it. We are going to multiply -3 times 2. So row times column is going to give us -6. So what this worksheet has us do, though, is it wants us to multiply these two right here to get the area. Now the area is going to be what is contained inside the rectangle. And then our dimensions would be, of course, the column and the rows. So for this problem, I'm going to say -3 times 2 gives me -6. So length times width is equal to the area. And like you did in elementary and middle school, you can flip-flop the length and the width. So let's take a second and look at number 2. This is the same, except for it has a variable in it. So you're going to multiply -12 times 2, which is -24. And then don't forget about our variable x. So we're just multiplying -12 times 2x. And then our result is 24x. So starting with question number 3, this is where the division part comes into play, because you know the area is 16x squared. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out what times -8x gives you 16x squared. So if you were here for chapter 2, then you saw me work out some factored problems where we were working backwards. So you just have to ask yourself what times -8x gives you positive 16x squared. So that's going to wind up being -2. So -2 times -8 is 16. X times x gives you x squared. Oops. Okay, and there you have it. So question number 4, it's gradually a little bit more complicated as we go throughout the worksheet. You can see that we have 2 parts up here. We have 2 terms, so that's a binomial, and then this one is just a constant term. So what we have to do is use our clues. I know that I have 10x inside the rectangle, so I have to say 5 times what gives me 10. So 5 times 2 gives me 10, but it's supposed to equal to 10x. So I have to do 2x. And then you can just finish up the problem by doing 5 times -1 gives you -5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 5 right here times 2x minus 1. They're not like terms. You can't add them together. And then if you look inside here, that's going to be your area. It just happens to be 2 terms instead of 1 like we did before. So I think what you can do is look at number 5 and just pause the video, see if you can fill it out, and restart it, see how you did. Okay, so on question number 5, you have 2x and you have 3. So I'm going to multiply 2x times 3, which gives me 6x. But then I have to go backwards. So anytime you don't know a row or a column, you have to figure out like what times 3 gives you -15. So that's going to give you a -5. So final answer would be 3 times 2x minus 5, and it gives you everything on the inside, which is 6x minus 15. Okay, let's take a look at question number 6. At this point in the worksheet, you're going to have to learn to be logical and work with what you have. So if I tried to figure out this, I'm actually unable to do that because I don't have any information here. So this column and this row are blank, so I'm kind of out of luck. So you do know that this is x. So you've got to ask yourself what times x is going to give you negative 2x to the third. So that's negative 2x squared. Once you have this filled out, then you can go ahead and do this missing part here. So negative 2 times negative 4 gives you 8, and then that's it because the x squared does not change. So my factors, or my length and my width, would be negative 2x squared, and then I have x minus 4 on the top, and these two cannot be added together, so just write them separately. All right, so 7 and 8 are very similar to 4, 5, and 6, except for they have 3 terms in your the rectangle area part. I'm going to let you go ahead and do those on your own. Let's take a second and look at number 9. Now, you have to be very strategic in trying to find what is missing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with multiplying anything that I can. So I can actually multiply this negative 3x and this positive 5. That's going to be negative 15x. Okay. Let's see here. This 5 and 20 go together. So I have to pair like what number times 5 gives me 20. So that's 4. And then I'm going to have to work backwards because I can't do this one yet. So before I do this one, I have to figure out this missing piece here. So negative 3 times what number gives me negative 12? That is a positive 4, and then x times x gives you x squared. Now that I have everything, I can fill in this last box. So that'll be 4 times 4x, which is 16x. Now, when you have a 2 by 2, most of the time you are going to see a diagonal of like terms. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to actually mentally look at this and think, oh, I can add them together. So negative 15 plus 16 is equal to 1x. So you got to be careful how you're going to write down this answer. So let's write our factors first. So I'm going to do 4x plus 5 here. And then I'm going to do negative 3x plus 4 here. And then in standard form, start with the highest degree, negative 12x squared, and then do your 1x, or just x, and then finish it out with plus 20. Now that you know how to do number 9, you should be able to do number 10. Should be able to do number 11 and number 12. Okay, let's make it just a little bit more difficult and look at number 13. Remember, anything on the outside is going to be like division, and anything on the inside will be multiplication. So there's lots of choices that you can work with here. I think I'm just going to go ahead and figure out what this one's going to be. So 3 times negative 3 gives you negative 9, and then x squared times x gives you x to the third power. Now that I know this, I can go ahead and multiply this times 5, and that's going to give me negative 15x. Can't really do anything with this because I don't know that one yet. So I'm just going to let those two be. This one, on the other hand, I can work backwards using the 5. So 5 times what number gives me 10? So 5 times 2 gives me 10, and then I can work backwards using this 4x. So 2 times what number gives me 4x? So 2 times 2x. Now that I have everything on the outside, I can go and multiply anything I need for the inside. So 2x times negative 3x is negative 6x squared. And then this last one here, 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. All right, so whenever you have more than one row, you need to look to see if you have any matching terms, any like terms. So you can see here that I can add these two together. Now, what happens when you add these two together? They actually cancel out. So you wind up getting 0x squared. So don't put anything at all. This one, on the other hand, 4 plus negative 15 gives you negative 11x. All right, so how are we going to write this answer? So we're going to start out with negative 3x plus 2. Look at the top here. In order, 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. And when you do this, make sure you add your like terms. So negative 9x to the third power. These two canceled out. You got 0x. Do not write it down. So now I'm going to put minus 11x plus 10. And that is my final answer. So now that we've done 13, you should be able to do 14, 15, and 16. And let's take a look at number 17 because we've added yet another row. So now that we've added another row, it's the same process. It's just you just have more terms to deal with. So there's lots of places that you can go. I can go ahead and multiply 2x and negative 3x to get this spot right here, which is negative 6x to the power of 3. And then it looks like I'm going to have to divide. So I kind of need information here and here before I can fill out any other part of that grid. So let's do this one right here. So negative 3, nope. Positive 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And then x squared times x squared gives you x to the fourth. Just kind of double check and make sure that everything is right, because the more complicated this question becomes, make a mistake early on, it's going to mess everything else up. So now that I've got that, I can go ahead and work here. That looks like that's just going to be a positive 1 here. All right, so my only option, because I don't know any of these over here, I can't multiply, so I'm going to have to work backwards. I know that I have 2x at the top of the second column. So what times 2x gives me negative 4x squared? So it's negative 2x. Okay, what times 2x gives me negative 2x? Well, that's just going to be negative 1. And now that I have all of my rows and columns filled out, I can just multiply and get the remaining 4 blank spaces. So that's going to be negative 6x to the third, negative 3x squared, negative 2x, and then negative 1. Remember, always pay attention to your diagonals. So this one starts out as a power 4, but this one, these are cubic terms. Look at this row. This is really big, not row, but a diagonal. Big diagonal here. They're all quadratic, so you can add them all together. And then these two are linear. And then, of course, I just have this one to start and this one to end up with. So let's go ahead and write down our factors. So I'm going to start with this part right here. Negative 3x squared minus 2x minus 1. Doesn't really leave you a lot of room here. And then we have 3x squared plus 2x plus 1. All right, be careful. Make sure you write your answer in standard form. So that's going to wind up being negative 9x to the fourth. I'm going to check that. Okay, let's add the x to the power of 3's. Negative 6 and negative 6 makes negative 12x to the third power. Okay, I've got negative 3, and negative 4. All together, that is negative 10 or minus 10 squared. And then these two together would be minus 4x, and then finish it out with the constant minus 1. So this is 5 terms, but that is the correct answer. And as you can see, 18 says it is a challenge. You can handle it. It just has 2 variables instead of 1, but everything else is the same. So just let me know If you need any help, please go back and watch the video again if you need to, because we absolutely need to know how to do this or use this technique so you can divide polynomials in the next part. Y'all have a great day.